Good evening and welcome to What's Your Story? My guest tonight is Diana Duxa Kurz. Over the past 18 years, she has helped hundreds of families cope with the loss of a child. She is here tonight to explain to us exactly how and why she has touched so many people. Welcome to the show, Diana.
Thank you.
Would you please begin by telling our viewing audience a bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm a licensed funeral director at our family-owned funeral homes, Newington Memorial Funeral Home in Newington and Burritt Hill Funeral Home in New Britain. And so back in 1952, my parents, Matthew and Dorothy Duxa, both licensed funeral directors, started to build their business by meeting with families and being involved in the community. And since that time, my father died in 2002. My mom is still with us, and currently my brother Matt and my son Jim manage together our family funeral homes. I began serving families in 1981 after I got my funeral director's license, after my education, and then got my funeral director's license. And it's been an unbelievably amazing honor and privilege to take care of families at their time of need, you know, to be trusted with honoring their loved one and caring for their deceased in a way that is meaningful to them has really been the focus of our work every day. About me, I've been a longtime member and past president of the Connecticut Funeral Directors Association. I'm currently a member of its legislative committee and still involved in the association. I've sat on the executive board for the National Funeral Directors Association and have been very involved throughout the years as a member currently of their spokespersons team and also of their professional conduct committee. Our funeral home has been awarded the National Funeral Directors Association Pursuit of Excellence Award, which is given to only 1% of all the funeral homes in the country. So we're very proud of that. We've received that for a number of years at both locations. I'm past president of the Academy of Professional Funeral Service Practice. And we've also been a finalist at the Yukon Family Business Award. We recently received the Newington Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year Award as well.
My goodness.
So, yeah, we've been busy throughout
That's a mouthful,
the years.
yes. Yeah. That's a mouthful.
And we're proud. We have an amazing staff. You know,
yeah.
We could never make any of these things happen without remarkably committed and dedicated staff, a team of people who are terrific funeral directors and support staff. We could never do it without them.
My intro to this show said that you have helped hundreds of families over the past 18 years deal with the loss of a child.
Yeah.
And my viewing audience should know that this is part one of a two-part taping that we're going to do with you. Mm-hmm. So let's get to the reason you are here. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about Cherish Our Children. Mm-hmm. Please explain to our audience how it came about, what it is, and so forth.
Okay. Cherish Our Children, our family wanted to create something to honor the lives of children who have died, children of any age. And so we created a walk to honor children who have died, to remember them, to share love with them and the community. We wanted to support parents who had lost children. We wanted to give them a place to be able to mourn freely amongst other parents who have lost children. And we also wanted them to be able to gain strength and hopefulness being surrounded by other people. We felt this would be meaningful. So back in about 1999, we sat down with a group of bereaved parents who had lost children to listen to them and see what their needs were to create this walk. What would be meaningful to them? You know, we felt that their input would help make this day special to so many others. So we listen to them, and we put together the elements of a walk that have, throughout the years, has pretty much stayed the same, with some few adjustments here and there. And the walk consists of walking from the funeral home in Newington to the West Meadow Cemetery, which is less than a mile. And we have a program there at the Christmas Box Angel. For 2 years, our first 2 years, from 2000 to 2002, we walked from the funeral home to a local park, and then we erected the angel statue. So since then, we've been walking there. The walk consists of a bagpiper leading the participants over to the site where the angel sits. And then once we get there, we have music. We have a vocalist and accompaniment with him singing. We have a bereaved parent speak and open their heart and share their story.
You're going to move away from that for this part of it, but the walk is essential. It starts where?
At the funeral home.
It starts at the funeral home.
Yep.
And the families and relatives and friends can join in
Yep.
and
they gather there.
The walk is what, a mile or less than a mile?
Less than a mile. We register there. We spend about an hour there. We have some refreshments at the funeral home.
Yes. Are there T-shirts or things?
There are T-shirts and little bracelets and things. The walk is free of charge.
Are there flowers?
There are, yep. As we register there, we give every participant an opportunity to write a message, a private little message to their child who they're remembering on a little card, and that card is attached to a white flower. So they carry that flower with them during the walk. And then they also give us the name of the child that they're remembering. So we have all those names recorded.
Now, during my initial interview with you, you made a comment to me that struck me. You said you came to realize that parents who have lost children need it more. Please explain what you meant by that.
Yeah. Well, you know, when we sit with a family to make funeral arrangements after the loss of a child, we form a very strong relationship. We become close to them, we become friends, and we help them to honor their child in a way that matters to them. We help them craft a service or a ceremony or some type of a ritual that matters, that's meaningful, that may capture their cultural belief. It may be religious and maybe it's not. But that time spent together helps us to get to know that family and offer them the very first steps of healing. So they stay with us. We're together for, a few short days or a little while, and then we know that they go home, and when they go home, there's a giant hole in their hearts. There's an empty place in their homes. Their world is just, it's not full anymore, and their journey has just begun, a very painful and difficult one. So this is the more. We knew that we wanted to do more for them. We wanted to find some way that could be meaningful to them and that it might help in their healing process, that they could find hope and inspiration. Everybody's not cut out to sit in a support group. Everybody doesn't want to share their feelings vocally with others sitting around a table. Some people are not religious, and they're not going to turn to their church or their faith for support. And so we felt this would be a tool that might help in their grieving process. So this was the more.
We also spoke about the fact that, in your opinion, the loss of a child is more devastating to a parent. And I was struck by the emotion you showed speaking to that. Could you please tell us why the loss of a child is more devastating than, say, a loss of an older person in your family? Why have you come to recognize that?
Well, I don't know that anyone who hasn't experienced the loss of a child could probably fully understand the pain, the profound pain and grief that a family feels when they've lost a child of any age. When we talk about our walk and when we refer to children who have died, your child could be a miscarriage or a young baby or a toddler or a school-age child or a young adult or even an older adult. If you're still alive and you have children, you're always a parent. So the loss of your child is where your hopes and your dreams and your future hopes for your child is completely devastated. You know,
It seems like it's an offense against nature.
it's a violation.
Yeah.
You know, the natural way has been violated. Your world is upside down. You survived and your child has not. And in many cases, a family believes that they didn't protect their child from a death or from this loss. You know, the trying to pick up and go forward is just too hard to do.
A sense of guilt?
Oftentimes, sure. And it's also illogical and just doesn't make any sense. This journey, their grief journey, is going to be a long one. It's going to be a painful one. It's going to be a harrowing one, and it's only just begun when we start to get to know these families. So,
have you found it to be more devastating for the mothers versus the fathers, or is it equally distributed?
I couldn't say that one parent would feel the loss any differently than another parent. You know, this is a mom and a dad. You know, they both lost their son or their daughter, and so although they may grieve differently, I think their pain is the same. It's just too much for a parent to handle, you know, the loss of a child. It's overwhelming, and it's hard for a parent to even begin to understand what's happening to them.
Yes. Now, at your event, there were parents there who had lost children 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And they still participated, still walk.
Yeah.
Could you speak to that, please?
And you know, some of these parents who have lost a child from so long ago, they even struggle walking. They're there in wheelchairs, so they maybe don't participate in the actual walk part of our program, but they meet us up at the angel statue and they're seated for the program. We, in particular, one story I can recall for you just as an example. There was a mother who was an elderly woman, and she was all by herself, and she came to, you know, fill out her registration form, and she said to one of our volunteers that she lost her child, and it was something like 30 years ago, I think she said, and at that time there was no help, there was no support. You know, losing a child at that time was something that we just moved on past. And so she was told that, you know, she could have another baby, and so that was that. So when she came to the walk, writing her child's name down on that registration form was so profound to her that, you know, she shared with our volunteers that when this child's name is going to be read, it'll be the first time anyone said his name in 30 years. You know, it was just an amazing story of fulfillment for her, because now all of a sudden, you know, this open wound was soothed. You know, we're never going to heal that wound, but we felt great satisfaction knowing that she felt good about being here and about coming, and certainly we've seen her, you know, for a number of years since. She still comes and remembers her baby. So that's just one story of how much it means to people.
As a professional in this field, what is grief?
Grief is what we feel inside, our thoughts and our feelings that we have inside of us when we lose someone we love. So mourning is an outward expression of those feelings. And really the only way to move towards a healing place is to confront grief head on, to almost grab hold of it and walk with it, you know, and to just realize that it's okay. You can handle the grief, and then use the opportunity to mourn in order to get through your grief. Mourning, whether it's outwardly crying, whether it's finding friends and relatives who support you in your need to mourn, in the ways that you have to express yourself to be able to share your loss. So we felt that the walk is a tool in the mourning process, you know, that would be able to give people who were trying to get through and try to understand what's happening in their life, being surrounded by others, and then that would give them some hope, some peacefulness at the very least.
Diana, what has all this meant to you? What has the impact of Cherish Our Children had on you?
It's been, I think, extraordinarily rewarding and satisfying for me and for our staff, for all the volunteers who help out and spend time working with bereaved parents. When we formed this committee of bereaved parents, our goal was to help support them by being surrounded by others, to raise awareness of the depth of the pain. It was to be able to say a child's name publicly, which is something that parents don't hear when they've lost their child. And so to be able to offer these options and these helpful moments to people feels good.
Excuse me, why do you think it is that when a parent or a person loses a loved one, that often friends are reluctant to even mention that person's name? It's as if that person wasn't ever here.
I know.
And it's the very thing that should take place. You should talk about that individual because they were here. Why do you think, as humans, we're reluctant to do that?
We're reluctant to do a lot of things that we really should be doing.
Okay.
But I think, in particular, and I've heard this from parents who have lost children, that people don't want to say the wrong thing. They're afraid that if they mention the name of a child, that it would make someone sad, it would make a parent sad. Well, this parent is only thinking about their child that they've lost. If someone remembers something about their child, if they say their name and comment on a birthday or something about the holidays or ask how the parent is doing since the loss of, Mary or Jimmy or, whoever their child might be, they don't understand how important that would be to a family. It means the world to a parent to hear someone recognizing and acknowledging and remembering their child. But we're just afraid to do the wrong thing, so we don't do anything at all, and we just turn our head and talk about something else, thinking that we're being helpful by not saying it.
Well, it seems to me that there's a big component in all of this that we haven't touched on, and I certainly don't want you to take on Judeo-Christian ethics or religion, but it seems to me that there would be some anger at God. The God that we think about as loving and warm and compassionate, and how could you do this to me? How could you shatter me like this? Why did you take my child? I had a parent on who lost both of her children in one instant in an automobile accident, and she's not alone. And have you had people express to you the anger?
Yeah, yes, we have, and of course, how could you question the way they feel? They legitimately believe that, that this wasn't fair, and it wasn't fair. And there are so many feelings that a family is having at that time, at that moment, and throughout the rest of their lives. If they are faith-based, some people can gain strength from their faith. Some people will turn to God and find great strength there. Others will from the very beginning just find great anger, and sometimes that turns back to their, they get past that. Other families can never get past it. So each person's grief is unique, and each person is going to find a way that they need to get through this journey, to try to find the light.
Seems to me there doesn't seem to be an answer for why God.
No.
It's just something we have to learn to live with.
I think so, and you can do a whole nother show on why God. Maybe somebody does have that answer. And there may be parents who have found a way to work their way through this and reconcile their feelings and understand that, God is the answer. It's again, like I say, it's just a unique way of getting through this. And some people turn to God and others don't.
Now, when you have this event,
Yes.
What day is it, and is it put on rain, snow, sleet, hail?
Well,
what day does it normally come around?
The walk is always on the Sunday after Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
So we've always decided that's what it's going to be. It's from 12 to 1, rain or shine. And so far, we have had very little weather issues. So we've walked in the rain, and we have tents, and we've made it work. So yeah, it always takes place the same time, and at the 12 to 1, and then the walk begins at 1. The program usually lasts an hour or so.
I have to say, I've never heard, and it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There are a lot of things I haven't heard, but I've never heard of a funeral home doing the extraordinarily unique things that you do to comfort families and parents of children who've lost children. What kinds of programs and training does your staff have to talk to people about this kind of stuff too? Because obviously you can't do it all.
Right. Actually, at our funeral home, we have a bereavement services coordinator who works with families. We follow up with all the families that we serve, and to see if they just need some help. So she'll make a phone call, and she's aware of all of the support groups in the area, whether they be faith-based or not. She's aware of all the happenings, all the retreats, all the different opportunities for people to try to understand their grief and to try to work their way through it. So she connects families, if they're looking for it, with others who understand their kind of loss. Sometimes it's a widower's group or children. Their compassionate friends and others are wonderful support groups that are out there, where if you've lost someone in your family, you can actually connect with others who understand your same type of pain and sorrow. We have a library at the funeral home with books and DVDs and all kinds of information that we give out that helps people try to, understand better and read about, their grief journey. So Marge reaches out that way, and the rest of us attend conferences and seminars, workshops, webinars, conventions, and get our CEUs from a variety of different ways, but we're always trying to understand more, learn more, and we have a very special place for children who have lost someone as well. So when you think about the loss of a child, also there's children who are young and have lost a parent or a grandparent who was very close to them, or
a brother or a sister.
Brother or sister, someone who was meaningful in their world. And so we have all kinds of information to share with families. There's a whole lot of wonderful information on our website that people can just go to and gather some great advice on, how do we talk to the children? How do we talk about a death, or how do we explain things about a funeral or about a cremation?
Right. How do you tell children about a loving God who took their brother?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So we try to offer as much advice and information as we possibly can.
So where do you see the walk in 10 years? Where do you see it?
Well, the walk in 10 years, depending on the weather, will probably have more people. Typically, the walk, on our dedication, we had over 600 people. Dedication of our angel statue. Typically, we have around 200 people, sometimes more, sometimes fewer.
Okay.
But in 10 years, I should say that after every walk, we do sit with our committee of bereaved parents who are really the driving force behind all of this. And we kind of relook at everything and see if there's things that they'd like to change or reevaluate or revise, and so we take their advice and make any changes necessary. So
you see it growing.
We see it growing, and we see it pretty much the same, although there'll be things, people change. It's kind of fluid.
All right,
so we'll see.
That's all the time we have for tonight's show. My thanks to my guest, Diana Duksa-Kurz, for sharing her story. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, good night.